Welcome to Coffee with the Lord Mayor. This morning I am joined by Lauren Kruitbosch and Councillor and Deputy Lord Mayor Clare Cameron. I hope you have your coffee. We are going to begin. We've got a few questions already that came in. As you know, we're not doing this live, so we can't get questions during this hour, but we have had quite a few questions come in from people, and they're pretty significant, and we will get to all of them. So I just want to start off with Lauren. Lauren is our community engagement, communications, everything at the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and she works in the CAO, Lord Mayor's office, and is working as well with Victoria Steele and Beth Audette. And Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to such an important position, a little bit about your background, a little bit about your kids. We love hearing about kids.
Sure.
How are you doing? Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I have been on the other side of this for months now, and it's kind of fun to be in this view. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Lauren. I have been the Community Engagement Coordinator since 2016. I started working for the town in 2010, and I've had a couple different roles that led me to this one, and this has been my favorite, I have to say. I do really love what I'm able to do with the town right now, and I'm so grateful for this role. Speaking of my kids, so I have a daughter who is 5 and a son who is 2. However, he would like me probably to say that he's almost 3. He turns 3 next month, so he's almost 3. My husband and I have been married for 9 years. I grew up in St. Catharines, but moved to Niagara-on-the-Lake when we got married in 2012. And absolutely love it here. This is where we are raising our family. It is such a great place to work and to live, and I really am not just saying that. I absolutely love this place. So we live in Virgil and have no plans of moving anytime soon. I think this is our forever place, hopefully. So yeah, I love living here. I love working here. So some of the things that I do as community engagement coordinator, and I work with such a fantastic team. I am so grateful for my team, and it really is a very collaborative role. So with Beth and Tori, and we also have Lucy who helps us out a lot as well with creative elements. But we do basically all the communication elements. So public updates, publications, updating the community, specifically with this last 15 plus months with COVID, working really closely with the ECG to provide updates to the community as the town continues to respond to COVID. So bringing
let us know what ECG means.
Yes, good question. There's so many acronyms. Emergency Control Group. So that is the ECG, and we are providing updates on what the ECG is rolling out and different updates from the province, and as they trickle down to the region and then to us, and then making sure our residents are informed. And doing that in a variety of ways by written updates and video updates. Our residents will likely have seen that we've really increased the amount of videos we've done in the last little while, and providing just different ways for people to stay updated. And we've tried our very best to keep things as positive as possible and giving opportunities for our community to remain connected and engaged during this time.
So apart from COVID, what other things does the communications team do in terms of assisting the administration with the work that they're doing?
Good question. So some of the things we do are media releases in addition to just things about COVID. So any sort of updates that we need the public to know, we do media releases to that regard. Publications such as the community guide, annual report, we're helping streamline those as well. Events, so community engagement, different types of events that we do. It's been a little bit different of a year with not being able to do in-person events, but things such as the Strawberry Social, which is usually a highlight for my year, one of my highlights anyways, and for the community as well. Different events like that. The Step Challenge, which last year we weren't able to do the Step Challenge, but we are very excited that registration for the Step Challenge opened yesterday, and we were hopeful to be able to do something with the Step Challenge this year, maintaining all regulations and keeping distance, but still remaining active. So those are some of the things that we do in community engagement and comms for the town.
Yeah, and you do all the, do you do all the join the conversation? You put that together. Do you do that?
Yes, with a great team of people, lots of different departments involved for their specific projects, but we help oversee that system. Yes.
Yeah, and you look after all the media releases and things like that for the town as well. I don't want to undercut all the things that you do
No.
because you guys work so hard. I remember at the beginning of COVID, like there was yourself and Beth predominantly. Victoria was still away, and you were there weekends, evenings. I could not believe, like, I'm surprised you didn't have a cot in there for you and Beth to get some rest.
Well,
So
we tried really hard at the beginning, and sorry, social media is a big one as well. So any kind of output where the town is informing the residents, that falls into our area. So especially at the beginning of COVID, we worked really hard to think about what are all the ways we can try to engage with the community to make sure they are informed and given the opportunity to remain informed with accurate, timely, and consistent messaging. So through social media, we engaged all 3 local newspapers. We have great local newspapers in town. So we had weekly updates in all of our papers. We also did some different things where we reached out to different associations, organizations, businesses to help spread the message as well during COVID, especially, and they continue to do that. So we kind of just grew our distribution base. And then something else that I think maybe was my favorite thing is we worked with different businesses and associations, churches who have signage on their front lawns and on their buildings. And we used those and they partnered with us to leverage what they had to share important messages. So especially at the beginning when the stay-at-home message was really fresh and new, but it was so important. If you drove down if you had to go to an essential location and you were driving down the streets of Niagara-on-the-Lake, you were seeing this consistent message of stay home. And I think that kind of community collaboration was really important. And so we were very grateful and happy to be able to use and work with businesses and associations, churches, lots. I don't want to miss anybody, everyone who helped, and even just residents putting signs in their windows. I think living in a smaller town there's many benefits to it, and something like that where you can work really closely with your local community to get important messages across was something that was good for us to do.
yeah, so what's one thing that's near and dear to my heart is the Niagara-on-the-Lake Business Directory and Shop Local. That was, how do you use that directory?
So actually a really good example that I can give, our Lord Mayor Youth Advisory Council, and Councillor Clare has been a part of that for many years, and now Lord Mayor Disero is a part of it as well, which has been so great. They are putting together bags and they're calling them the You Got This bag. And so they're putting 100 bags together for youth in Niagara-on-the-Lake. And they wanted to reach out to different businesses to perhaps partner with them by putting different things in the bag. In the bag, the idea of it is that a youth can get this bag and just feel excited about free things and to know they're supported and put a smile on their face. So through our business directory, Beth actually sent out a letter that the Lord Mayor Youth Advisory Committee wrote asking for support and partnership, and sent it out through the directory. So all businesses who have signed up to the directory were given the opportunity to read this letter. And the response has been incredible. I don't even know the number that they're currently at, but the amount of businesses who are so quick to respond and say, yes, we want to participate. We're going to give this, we're going to give that. It has been so great. So we have the bags, we're putting them together in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully, pending all regulations, we'll be able to do a drive-through pickup for youth in town. But so different opportunities for businesses to engage with what the community is doing, but then also for us to inform them. So of things going on in the community that really impact local businesses, it's a great way for us to update them on what's going on, and then also really promote their business. So things like Shop Noddle, when we're doing different giveaways, we can say, here are a list of our great local businesses, check out our directory. So there's a lot of really cool ways we've been able to leverage our business directory that we launched last year, actually during COVID.
Yeah, and which leads me to my last question for you.
Okay.
There's been some things happen in the town that have been overwhelmingly fun and or generous from different people, like the Halloween and things like that. Who comes up with those ideas? How does that happen? That all of a sudden people are putting signs in their windows and drawing or dancing or whatever. Who comes up with those ideas?
it really is a team effort. The Halloween one in particular, that idea came to me personally. I was thinking about my kids and how Halloween was going to look really different for them. So I was just thinking, what are some things as a town that we can do for our young families with kids where Halloween is just going to be so different and so many things are so different this year. So I chatted with Beth about it and we kind of tossed around some ideas. We had no idea it was going to be as big as it was. We ended up filling over 700 bags for our local kids and families, and the response was incredible. I think my original thought was maybe we'll do 100, maybe 250, and then 700 bags. The production line was quite long making those bags, and then we delivered them to all the households throughout town with help, of course. And community support, I have to say, Maria Mavridis was such a huge help, and businesses donating for those bags. But that was really, really fun. So I think in the midst of this really difficult time for people individually and then as a community, we've had those silver linings of moments where we can come together, make noise, Noddle. That was another great one where everyone went outside at 6 p.m. I can't remember what time it was, 2 times throughout the last year, and just made noise thanking frontline workers. Again, that's such a fun way to kind of find positivity in the midst of all this. And then the other one that just comes to mind is Noddle Gives Back. And that was our Christmas 3-in-1 donation where we had a drive-through. People could come and drop off food and clothing. And again, our community just shows up for things like this. It was so incredible to see the amount of donations that came in and people who were so excited to give. So yeah, it's been a difficult year, but we've had some really, really great successes as well.
Yeah, so that's great. And I have to tell you that I love the coordination and cooperation that goes on in our office in terms of just somebody has an idea, boom, it goes into practice, and everybody rolls up their sleeves and works to get it done. Are you are you doing anything? Do you have anything to do with the website coming in, or is
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm part of the project team. So our IT manager, Fred, he is heading up the team, but I'm a part of that team. And we are, let me tell you, so excited for our new website. We cannot wait for it to come. The RFP is currently out and it closes on June 11th, I believe. And we are hopeful for a new website. We're aiming for the end of the year, which I think will be really great.
Yeah, for sure. And Claire, you're on that, on the IT committee, and actually you are a driving force on council for change in terms of technology changes in our town. First of all, let me start from the beginning. Welcome to Coffee with the Lord Mayor. Pleased to have you on. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Claire.
Thanks. Like Lauren, I grew up in Niagara. I grew up as a child in Jordan, so just on the other side of the Niagara area. And it was so fantastic growing up in a smaller town. My husband and I met at Fort George when we were students. That was very, very romantic. It was great. And it was probably, one of the most idyllic ways to get introduced to Niagara-on-the-Lake as a younger adult, I guess. As a proto-adult. And many, many years later, 2000, we were able to actually purchase a home here. And we lived in Virgil for many years, loved it, and just have recently moved, but we're still, of course, within Niagara-on-the-Lake. And I have to echo everything that Lauren has said about the quality of life here, bar none, is absolutely outstanding. Across the country, I think across the continent, the world, we know how many people want to have a piece of this wonderful community where we live. We're so happy to be putting down even more roots with our family here. Looking forward to, as Lauren had said, spending many years here and continuing to see the town grow and build on our great history and keep being such an outstanding place to live.
Yeah, that's great. So how is COVID? How have you been coping with COVID?
I have been feeling every day profoundly lucky, very, very lucky. I am able to completely work from home. My husband has also been able to continue working. So with all of the incredible, of course, the health risks that so many people have to face, we are incredibly lucky to be somewhat protected from that. And then, of course, with all the economic difficulties that people have had, we are also feeling profoundly lucky and grateful that we have been, well, a little bit, we've been able to get through that okay ourselves. In the meantime, we're, of course, trying to support as many local businesses as we can and trying to share as much helpful information as we can among friends about how to support and still engage with our community, but in a safe way. And of course, we're missing our friends. Of course, we're missing our family. We try to stay in touch as much as possible with phone calls like everybody else and Zooming and all of that. But we do look forward to being able to hug people again.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, me too. So can I ask you something? This may be too personal, I don't know, but have you had your vaccine yet?
So I have had the opportunity to have the first shot, yeah. And
Great.
I'm also, that's another reason why I'm feeling very, very grateful. Yes, about that.
Yeah, and did you get it at a pharmacy or at a clinic or?
The first opportunity that I had was actually through the vaccination clinic that just happened here organized by Public Health here in our community center. So I thought that I might have to travel further from home, and then the way timing worked out, it was pretty amazing. I was able to get an appointment there, or a booking, I suppose.
Yeah. Was it this weekend? Did you go this weekend?
Yeah, just this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And it was such a well-run, smooth, streamlined operation. I kept saying thank you over and over again to all the staff from public health there, the volunteers. I honestly, when it finally happened, I felt a little bit emotional about it too, because for everybody who has the opportunity to be vaccinated, it is a huge relief, I think, even just to get that first step.
Yes, for sure. I know when my mom got her vaccine, that was one sort of lift off my shoulders. And then when I got called, I was on the Simpsons waiting list. And so when I got called by Simpsons, I ran down to get it. And well, knock on wood, there was no real great reaction. Feel so much.
My arm was a little bit sore yesterday. That was about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Lauren, can I ask you the same thing? Did you get a vaccine? You're too young.
I haven't been able to yet, but I just read this morning that they're opening up to 18 plus very soon. So my time will come shortly, but I have not had opportunity to do it yet. But my husband did earlier this year. He was able to he's fully vaccinated. He's done through his work. He's a first responder, so he was able to go quickly this year. So he's done. I'm next.
Yeah. So
it feels like the end is in sight.
Yes.
Yeah. So does this mean that you're waiting for 18 and older because you're still 21, right?
Still 21. No, I am close to the 30, but not quite there yet. So I wasn't able to get in that category.
Yeah. So actually, just that now that we've mentioned 18-year-olds, I know that you're working. You work with different committees, Lauren, like the inclusivity committee and so on. And one of the things we talked about, you probably remember it was recently, it was looking for things for 18 to 29-year-olds. Like, I think where we're lacking in terms of a council, and Claire, jump in if you like, where we're lacking in terms of a council is actually that group that is not part of the Lord Mayor's Youth Advisory. They're not quite into, the majority of the population. And so that I think we've lacked giving them a reason to stay or amenities that they might need. And I know the inclusivity committee is looking at that. It's not that they feel, bullied or anything, but it's just that we don't provide a service. I don't know, Claire, do you want to jump in and say something about that?
Well, one of the toughest realities about that demographic is the lack of a high school, that's for sure. the college, when Niagara College is normally operating, has grown so much. It's a real bright spot, I think, and a great asset for our community. But of course, the social aspect of the college programming and its place in our community has been incredibly hampered and changed by COVID.
Yes.
So from my experiences with the Lord Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, the passion that people feel in that particular age band is so strong for local issues. We do need to get those voices heard and seen more frequently and more visibly, whether it's through council meetings or other forms of communication with the town. And I think we've all, through various contact points that we have across the community, probably encountered situations where, I mean, I certainly have. I've had to tell people, yes, there are young families in town. I've had to tell people, yes, there are teenagers that live in Niagara-on-the-Lake. We need to make sure that every aspect of our community is fully visible and that people do feel that if they've got something to say, there's a clear place to say it and they will be listened to.
Yeah, for sure. Now, and I didn't mean to cut you off when we started talking about COVID vaccines. So tell us a little bit so the public knows what committees you're on, what your thoughts are for I guess, the last 18 months or so of council, some of your priorities, things like that.
Yeah, I share the excitement about the website, that is for sure. When I think back what feels like years and years ago now about first deciding to get involved with council, quite honestly, having a new website was one of my top 2 or 3 things. I was working in IT at the time and seeing how powerful online platforms could be to really assist public organizations in engaging with their public. And not just on political issues, but actually helping people to start getting things done with their public institution through a website or online space, just like a space in a physical building. So through the Customer Experience and Technology Committee, I'm really excited to see that work starting to really get going. And with Lauren, she's the key staff support together with Fred, like you mentioned, on that committee. And there's been a huge amount of great input from our members on that committee too. So that is one that I'm involved with, and then also a member of the Municipal Heritage Committee, which is always a really interesting mix of smaller items that come forward for updates to signage and windows and repairs in our heritage district, and then bigger projects too with bigger heritage assessments and issues. And the Urban Design Committee as well is another one related to our built environment, which is a definite passion too for me.
Yeah, and with the Urban Design Committee, if we get it right, you really determine how the town will look and feel to pedestrians and motorists and things like that. And that's, to me, really important.
That is the hope. Now, that committee is a little bit different because it provides advice to staff. It doesn't provide advice and recommendations to council directly, so council gets to see the minutes. And often the discussion and deliberation by the members there too. We have some incredible expertise on that committee, and it can be very educational listening to the comments and the perspectives that are shared. There's so much passion felt within this community for exactly what you said. What kind of built form do we end up with? And one of the most important principles for me in that is achieving variety as well in our streetscapes. Having traveled when we could travel to other communities in Ontario, the communities I love to visit are ones where there's a mix of built form everywhere. You can enjoy walking down a street and being surprised. It's not monotonous. There are spaces where things get built a little bit at a time rather than massive. Well, the mass is a little bit different. Yeah, so I think we're very lucky in this town that we've been able to grow over time, and there's a lot of variety here.
Yeah. So tell me, what sort of things, if you were the decider, what are the couple of projects that you like to, I mean, apart from IT, and what would you like to do? over the
Yeah,
next?
well, as one of the 9 deciders, I've really appreciated over the last 18 months having the chance to give input on that service delivery review that has happened. Staff and our new CAO have brought forward, I think, at least 3 or 4 reports now on the progress of that. And it's really great to feel momentum building in that way. And honestly, just some of the basics about making sure that we are able to advance on our strategic goals. The importance of heritage remains really, really important in my mind. There have been also some important capital projects like the expansion of the Niagara Nursery School that the town was able to participate in. The future of the St. David's Pool remains really important. And overall, the town making sure that our transportation infrastructure is set up in an adequate way. So a lot of those things that initially were driving a lot of interest in getting involved, they've remained pretty consistent for me over time.
Great, that's great. So Lauren, you seem to be involved in a lot of committees. Lord Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, the IT Customer Experience Committee. What other committees are you involved with?
I also am just supporting the Inclusivity Committee right now through their use of Join the Conversation, and they completed their survey, and so now they're moving into their focus groups. So just supporting them and helping them set up those different emails and reaching out to those people who had completed the survey. So we are very fortunate in Niagara-on-the-Lake to have so many people who are very interested in the things we're doing and committed to helping. And so we have lots of committees of people who are so engaged. I think, and I love all the committees I sit on and different committees I'm a part of and support, but the Lord Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, I think I have to say that one has been my absolute favorite. And the growth on that committee, so that committee started, I think it was in 2017 when Bethany Poto had kind of brought it to our attention to start it. So it really was an organic committee right from youth in our town. And the first couple of years was maybe 7, 8 members, maybe moved its way up to maybe 11. And then this year we have our most ever at 16 members. And we meet every other week online right now, of course. So, but despite being online and the restrictions right now, they have been trailblazers. I have been so impressed with the things that this committee is able to do, as council's been able to do. And they're just a lot of fun to work with. Their passion for Niagara-on-the-Lake and for different initiatives throughout the town is it's very contagious. The things that they want to do, it's awesome.
That's great. That's really great. So Clare, the COVID has been a whirlwind of emotions. It's been over the last, and people, the only thing that stays constant is frustration and anxiety at this point. But is there anything that you see coming out of this awful pandemic as being something that we've learned that we can move forward with, that will be make a positive change to our community? What do you see out there, if anything at all?
Yeah, I do think it's underscored the importance of creativity and flexibility and willingness to adapt very, very quickly to constantly changing circumstances. We all, I think, in lots of ways, felt the pressure of constant change as a reality of life before the pandemic. It's absolutely impossible to ignore now. And I hope that there will be a takeaway where responding to constant change and new information, though it can and will be exhausting, can also present new opportunities, that we can try to be positive about the opportunities in that. And for our community in particular, reliant as we are in a lot of cases on constant visitor and travel from around the world, the way that local businesses have been able to respond to that has been, again, with creativity and patience and positivity. The way that I've seen some businesses partner up and cross-promote each other has been really wonderful. The shift to doing business online, which for some was very, very difficult, there have been some really important supports provided, whether through the chamber or other grants to help get businesses online. And I think, you know, just the fact that under stress, while we're all feeling it, we need to stay positive, take care of each other. And in this unique situation too, I mean, health and important information coming from scientific sources is so critical. And the ability to access good information is also so important. And to share, to have ways to connect and share with each other, even when we can't be physically together, is another big takeaway for me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, yeah, you're right. And that creativity and those meeting demands, being nimble enough to be able to meet some of those changes and challenges has really really opened up a lot of opportunities, I think, as well. Like, for example, when we look at Queen Street, we see there's patios now that were very successful over the summer.
Yeah.
We can review that and look at that and see, well, maybe Queen Street can handle patios. I mean, not in the way they are at the moment because they're sort of stuck out in the street, but it allows us an opportunity to make some changes, possibly with the approval of the Municipal Heritage Committee.
Yes, we can come up with something that's a little prettier to protect people than the big concrete barriers, for example. But there's another opportunity for creativity and design and putting a Niagara-on-the-Lake stamp on doing new things.
Yeah.
That's harmonious with all of the wonderful environment that we have here. I think too, a big takeaway is the value of outdoor space and outdoor exercise and the opportunity to use outdoor spaces. Of course, there's been so much pressure on our parks, and having things like the new Parks Bylaw and the Recreation Master Plan that's underway now is timely more than ever. Those things were important before COVID, but now I think for a lot of people coming out of this experience, being able to go outside and enjoy time with your family and friends outside is more important than ever.
Yeah. So we've had a couple questions that came in. One, and there are going to be people on all sides of everything that we do. One issue that was brought forward was, why are we barricading picnic tables? And there was another question as to, why are we allowing tourists to come in? So those two questions, let me start, and if you want to, if I join in anytime. So my everything that we do, and I have to tell you, I hate when people think that we're not looking after them. I think from the beginning of this pandemic, the biggest and the highest point for the emergency control group has been to maintain health and safety and protect the health and safety of our residents. So I hate it when we can't do something that I feel like, oh my gosh, people are coming in from different regions. They're not supposed to be coming in from different regions. And yet our hands are tied. We can't stop them from coming in unless the province closes the highway, or unless the region closes, the Parkway, Niagara Stone Road, and Lakeshore. We can't do that because they're not our roads. And so that frustration I'm feeling, because we can't stop people. So what we've been trying to do, I think, and Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, is trying to get people to understand, look, because we can't stop this, people are going to come. So make sure that you keep your distance, wash your hands, and wear a mask. And hopefully it won't spread. And now with the good weather coming, it's going to get even worse. And the reason why we're meshing up picnic tables and putting barricades across soccer posts or goal posts is the province is mandated that we have to. And you know, it's one thing to look at other municipalities and say, well, they're not doing it. We don't run those other municipalities. We can only do in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and we can all, and what we can. We can't do anything in Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, Welland, or anywhere else. We're looking after Niagara-on-the-Lake. And the province says you can't go on a picnic table. They're out of bounds. So we mesh them up. So I don't know. I mean, I feel there is a frustration there that I feel because I just want to grab everybody and say, look, let me protect you. And anyway, Claire or Lauren,
Yeah.
did you want to?
Sometimes government is government, and, you know, residents may think and hope that there's really, really direct coordination between all levels of government, but the reality is seldom quite as aligned as we might like to wish. So yes, I completely agree. You know, the town has been trying to follow and making sure that we follow the provincial regulations, because we do have to follow what comes to us from that top-down authority in this respect. With the initial playground closures after the first latest stay-home order, before the second latest stay-home order, of course, there were comparisons being made to other municipalities. And yes, sometimes other municipalities have bigger staff or different people on the ECG or the emergency control group, or different decisions are made in different communities. It's one of those quirks of Niagara having so many municipalities all together that, yes, there are 13 different ways of doing things sometimes across our area. So I think the town is trying to do our best to put safety first and put safety as a paramount thing. And on the second part of that, there was exactly. So that one is just the sort of the reverse problem. The province has mandated that picnic tables be closed, but also has made the decision that the order to stay home will not be enforceable. So it's not possible to stop people. And there's a wide variety of reasons and thinking why that decision was made in Ontario. Different decisions to make stay-home orders and be enforceable have been made in different provinces, but there too is part of the variety of government organizations and decision-making that makes Canada what it is. So I feel the frustration. I've seen globally, you know, we've all seen the examples of where sometimes stronger adherence to rules has had a much more beneficial effect, and yet we all also feel the frustration. So I can empathize with that, definitely.
Yeah, Lauren, did you want to?
Sure, yeah. So we live really close to the Virgil Sports Park here. In the morning that the crews were out closing up the soccer fields, and at that time the playgrounds, the kids and I were out for a walk, and my 2-year-old son kept going, "Mom, why? Like, why are they closing it?" And I said, there were guys who were doing it. I said, I'm sure they don't necessarily want to be doing that. It's just what has to happen right now. And so I think that even just these little kids, right? They walk around these parks and see everything closed off, and their minds, it's just a little overwhelming for their minds. But as a mom, anyways, I'm trying my very best to let them know that it's not that these employees of the town, this is what they want to be doing. This is what we have to do right now based on provincial order and what we're trying to do to keep everyone safe. But with people coming into Niagara-on-the-Lake, and of course it's a beautiful place, people want to come here. And what you had said earlier, Betty, about doing our best to emphasize safety. So sanitizing high touch points in Old Town, doing things like the Bell Media campaign. So that's still ongoing. And what that is, it's through cellular devices or any sort of device. We have messages going on people's phones as they're entering into Niagara-on-the-Lake, or even just regional visitors or exterior regional visitors. And it's just messages of reminders of things that I'm sure everyone knows by now. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, keep a distance, wear your mask. But just those reminders, we're trying our best to make sure people are coming into Niagara-on-the-Lake from out of the region or within the region, that there is not every single device gets it every time. It's divided up based on percentages, but you may get a message that says, hey, just a reminder, please protect yourself and others. Don't forget these things. And so we're trying our best as a municipality to do everything that we can at the moment to enhance different safety and health precautions. Our washrooms are open, so that's something as well. Last year, we saw some really big struggles and challenges with having our washrooms closed. And I don't need to go into details of what those were, but
oh, I think we all know what you're talking about. We've all unfortunately seen it.
I think, Lauren, that was the only time that we have said to the province or done something that wasn't within the provincial mandate. Provincial mandate said keep them closed, but we had to open those washrooms, and we were cleaning them constantly so that way it would be safe. But that was the only time I think we did not follow, or we took a step back from the provincial mandate. Everything else we followed to the letter.
I'm glad that Lauren mentioned the Bell Mobility campaign as well, because again, you know, the value of data has really shown us not just the volume of visitors, which we've all felt anecdotally and seen, but what's interesting about that data is the vast majority of visitors to Niagara-on-the-Lake right now are coming from within Niagara. So that may, although it looks like there are floods of people coming, help to provide some assurance that at least regional, interregional within Niagara travel seems to be the greatest type of visitor that is coming. And within Niagara, we are now getting to see overall case counts go down, which is a good thing as well. So any way that we can help to provide some assurance or confidence by sharing information like that is great.
Yeah, so
if someone is listening who's wondering where to look for that data, that's every Monday during committee of the whole or council meeting. The CAO provides those numbers in her update, or her COVID update during those meetings.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears for a minute. There was a question that came in that talked about the cannabis bylaw. Here's the question. I understand the new cannabis bylaw remains in draft form due to an appeal. Can you please provide an update? Growing season has begun and we still have not yet passed a bylaw. Is the interim bylaw still in effect? So the short answer is yes, the interim control bylaw is still in effect. In the Planning Act, what happens, and this is only for zoning. For official plan amendments, it's a different case altogether. But when you do a zoning bylaw, like the new cannabis zoning bylaw, we had an interim control bylaw in effect to do the research for putting a new cannabis bylaw, zoning bylaw in place. What happens is if there's an appeal, the Planning Act states that until that appeal is heard, the interim control bylaw stays in effect until a decision is made on the zoning bylaw. So until we get a decision from LPAT, someone has appealed it, they're at LPAT, until we get a decision from LPAT, our interim control bylaw stays in effect. So that's the answer to that question. It's different with official plan amendments or municipal act bylaws and things. This is only for zoning, is the explanation I'm giving you now. Correct, Claire? All good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. So, all right. So this question is a difficult question. It's when I listened to Councillor Ween's comments about me. I'm saying me because of where I live in town, in Chautauqua near Ryerson Park, being, in quotes, white privilege racist. I take great offense to that. And as far as I'm concerned, look, it goes on about how upset this person is. What they want to know is what are the mayor's thoughts on the comments, and is there anything this person can do? So I'll start off, and Claire, I'm going to ask you to chime in as well. So here's my thought. Our code of conduct for council is pretty strict. in terms of the way a member of council acts. The issue is that unless a member of council identifies or, says something about a person or names a person, it's difficult to say that person breached the code of conduct. For example, if Claire said to me, "You're this, you're ABC," I could actually go to the integrity commissioner and launch a complaint because Claire would have violated the code of conduct. But if Claire got up, and I'm sorry, Claire, to use you as the example here, but if Claire got up and said, "I think council is awful," she hasn't identified a person. She's just saying how awful council is. Now, if I was chairing, I probably would have said, "You're out of order. Be a little bit more to the issue," but it's not against the code of conduct. It's a really gray area as to whether or not any code of conduct was breached. And I'm not going to, and that's a question, that's not an answer. And I don't want to get into the position of talking about a certain member of council, because then I would be violating the code of conduct. So let me just say this. I don't believe that it is productive or helpful, and it is sometimes hurtful when people stereotype and especially when they're doing it in a negative way. I think that we need to look at how we resolve issues in terms of what is affecting our residents and our businesses. And, saying that stereotyping, things like that, as I said, is not productive and sometimes hurtful. And I would never, in my own mind, want to do anything like that because it doesn't get you to a solution. And that's all I'm going to say. So Claire, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, thanks. That evening, Councillor Irwin Weens was speaking with a lot of passion and was expressing his own interpretation of a situation where we have lots of residents that are feeling very frustrated, I think, in my mind, for very practical concerns like safety and volume of traffic and volume of people and logistics. So what I view as a logistics issue and a practical issue that I feel confident will have practical solutions, Councillor Irwin Weens was expressing a different interpretation of a tough situation. And he's free to have that impression or interpretation, and as you've said, to express it as long as it's in a general sense. But also as an elected official, we have to be very conscious about how our interpretations and our expressions of things, especially in public meetings, can make people feel. So for my part, as one of the 9, just like sometimes, every meeting, somebody says something on council that I don't necessarily disagree with, that's okay. I don't share his feeling and his interpretation of this situation right now. But at the same time, he's entitled to have some view of it. And what I would say to people that have felt a reaction in themselves about what was said and what his position may be, I'd encourage you to contact Councillor Irwin Weens. If I ever say something in a meeting that rubs people the wrong way or that people disagree with, I definitely hear about it, and I'm glad to, because that's how we end up being able to be better representatives of our whole community. So I would encourage the person or people who have felt hurt or mischaracterized right now to reach out to the councillor. And yes, as with any of our actions, there is always the opportunity to put in a more formal complaint, but the standard and the bar for pursuing something like that is quite high. That's for sure. So on that particular matter too, with the good solutions that we can find in a balanced way for the Chautauqua neighborhood, there is a report at council this week about that. And yes, I'm looking forward to whatever solutions will be practical and balanced.
That's right. And so the only other thing I want to add to that is if anybody is making a call, take the emotional reaction out of it. Talk about what is the issues. So that way, any counselor you speak to will get a better understanding of the issue rather than emotional. Because I think if we have to take the emotional, put it aside, park it, it's there, but we need to deal with you're right, we need to deal with the practical solutions to this. So that way we can get rid of the emotional reactions that are happening. So, okay, I think that, let me just check to make sure. Okay, so do either of you know what possibly the timing of the website, the new website will be? Are we looking at the fall, or, and will people have an opportunity to have some input in the website and how it looks? Lauren, we'll start with you.
Sure,
And then,
I'm happy to, no problem. So the RFP is out right now. It closes on June 11th, I believe. And then we are looking forward to meeting and selecting our proponent for who is going to be our the company organization who's going to be installing and putting together our new website. We will look to them for their expertise and how they do that process, but we anticipate there'll be some form of community engagement so we can hear from the public on what they would like as well. What that looks like exactly, I'm not sure at this point, but we will know more once we make our selection. And then the target date for completion is by the end of 2021. Which I know is a pretty hefty goal, but we are really hopeful that it will be up and ready and we'll be excited to use it by the end of the year.
That's great. Well, congratulations to both of you on that. So we're coming to a close of our Coffee with the Lord Mayor. I want to thank everyone who took the time to listen to this. I hope you have gotten to know our deputy and our communications coordinator, engagement coordinator a little bit better. And thank you, Claire and Lauren, for being on with us. I just want to make one little statement. The medical officer of health, Dr. Hergy, has said that he's hopeful that by the end of May, we'll have at least 55% of the population in Niagara region vaccinated. And if you take those children into account that don't need to get a vaccination, we should be at 65. So we're getting there, and I want to encourage everyone, get a vaccine, we should be, great, we should be having more access through your primary caregiver, your doctor, through the pharmacies, clinics. They're now going to start increasing the amount of vaccine we're getting into Niagara region. So please get a vaccine. And until then, stay safe, keep your distance, wear a mask, wash your hands. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us today. And I look forward, hopefully next month, Beth, thank you for doing this today. And hopefully next month we will be able to go live, perhaps, and that will be great. So we'll be able to have a conversation more or less. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your coffee. It's been great to talk to everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.